Welcome back, everyone. I am Follygon, and we are going to continue working on the face. But before we do that, click that subscribe button if you are new around here, and check out gumroad.com/Follygon if you want to learn more about digital sculpting. Most recently, I've released a new course on lighting and rendering, something I'm super excited about, so check it out. Links are down below. All right, let's go ahead and clean up the face. Add in some eyebrows, some eyelashes, some quick, just rough hair that won't be final. It'll just be a bit of a placeholder. And I'll be creating a mouth bag and remeshing here as well. So in terms of order for how we tackle that, it doesn't really matter. All be the same. It all needs to get done. So let's maybe just start with the quickest and easiest, which is going to be an eyebrow. Now, eyebrows, I will warn you, are a very expressive part of the face. So you do not, you just want to be careful with your eyebrows. I'm just drawing in a quick line. I might want to be more intentional about this in terms of shape or design language for the eyebrow. Just kind of, you don't want to half-ass it, really. You want to get something nice in there. I'm just using my cube tube brush, adjusting the thickness. That's roughly where I want it. It's a bit long. Oh, I don't want to make it longer. Thank you, ZBrush. Yes. All right. Let's use that. That'll be fine. Let's do a mirror and weld. Very rough. And we might kind of hand sculpt these later on as well on top of the surface. I haven't decided quite yet exactly how I want to handle these, which is why just for now, we want to get something there just so we can kind of see the face as a whole. You really need all these pieces to make it come together. Not having eyebrows in there is going to feel really awkward. So we definitely want to get those in. Well, we did not want to Dynamesh, not at all. We do, however, want to taper those out. Feels really nice. When those start to taper, get real sharp. Just trying to fix the direction that was twisting. And those don't need to be nearly as long. Some awkward angles happening here, though. Let's see. Let's just try a quick rotate. Following that line of the brow. Alright, for just a general quick shape, I think that feels fairly nice, although there are some changes that I would like to make still. So I'm going to subdivide that. Just get it really rough into position like so. So that is kind of a rounded form, just blending into the surface of our head there. And that just helps to give our face a little bit more of an expression. We'll go back to black and white here. Yeah, I think these are just like, we need to change where this plane break happens. Bring it more out here to the end. Yeah, I don't necessarily want super wide brow. If anything, yeah, maybe that might be a bit too much. Just kind of experimenting with the shape. All right, let's call that good for now, and we'll continue on. I guarantee we will return to those later. From here, I would like to shift gears a little bit and start getting some more design elements in on this character. As I mentioned, this is going to be super experimental for this character. And I've been thinking about kind of the direction I want to take this a little bit more here. So I want to start getting some experimental ideas in, get them on the canvas, see what works, see what doesn't, and kind of go from there. That's also going to include some paint as we continue forward. But I'd like to, I think, do the hair next, as I find that hair is something that really defines character. It's going to be really important to the larger silhouette here. It's going to kind of frame the face. So I think I'll just start by doing a quick mask and give this character some large bangs. Kind of want the bangs to frame the face, or at least right now I do. All subject to change later on, of course. Really simple piece here. We can also throw some paint on the face in just a moment. I want to fix those ears quite a bit as well. Lots of things to play with and fix. Let's actually keep that going all the way back. I think this will just be easier to control that way. Oh, little group loops there. Z remesh. So at least for now, the current direction I want to take this. I've been thinking about trying to make something a bit more graphic, a bit more tailored towards the final render, quite a bit. Let's see, how deep can we go with these? How far down before we start covering up those brows? You run the risk of getting to a point where you kind of lose some expression from the face when you cover up those eyebrows. Let's just leave that maybe there for now. I want to change the shape of these brows too. I'm not really liking them too much, but all subject to change later on. Let me get another piece of geo in here really fast. So there's so many different ways to create hair. Well, let's turn on double. It can be a little overwhelming. There's so many ways to do everything. I get asked about hair all the time, which is why in one of the Sculptober videos I specifically spent a day just working on hair. I did the kind of mohawk style from Marvel's Storm character. I love that character. I love her design. She's got some really cool shapes. There's so many different ways to create hair. We got a little hole back there. That'll be fine. That it can definitely feel overwhelming. The thing is... Oh, we didn't have a hole. That was just a flipped normal or something going on there. Some verts overlapping, probably. Hair is like anything else, right? And as you can see, I'm kind of blocking it out in a similar way to how I would create anything else. It's just a piece of geometry that I threw on my surface, and I'm just starting to manipulate it. I mean, I think people get maybe, if you're sculpting hair, it's obviously very similar, but if you're, going to simulate hair, that's a little bit different. But I think people often get kind of scared to progress forward, and you just really need to sometimes go straight ahead, plunge right into it, so to speak. That sounds really awkward. We'll I'll edit that out. I wanted to play around with the ear shape as well. These ears aren't even they're not even on the surface there. So like I said, hair really frames the face. Like, this feels completely different already just by changing the silhouette here slightly. I wanted to play with giving her pointy ears. I think it's always a fun little aesthetic. Maybe some droopy pointed ears as well. Is it drows that have kind of a droopier ear? I don't know. My fantasy ear knowledge is lacking. Oh, now that's starting to push into a bit of a weird, kind of too stretched direction. There's definitely too much exaggeration point where things feel really, really ugly. But we want to keep her beautiful. I say keep her beautiful, but just like looking at how messy the surface is and everything. I'll be remeshing, creating a mouth bag and stuff later. Let's see. Let's grab a quick paintbrush, grab a base, fill that in, and that is not going to be the final skin tone, but you got to start somewhere. I kind of want to make this character... So my current idea, I've been saying that this is going to be very experimental, but my current kind of mental state is, again, trying to make something really graphic for that final image, for that final render. I really want to focus on that. But in terms of like theme and elements, I've been thinking something kind of like frosty, something cool in color, maybe integrating some elements of ice or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Obviously the skin, very strange right now. Let's see, we'll make some of this a bit more warm. I started off with this kind of yellowish color. Typically what you'll see when coloring a face, I'm just experimenting right now, trying to find something that I like, but typically what you'll see with a face is you'll see more yellow around kind of bony landmarked areas, and you'll see more blue around hairy areas, and you'll see more red around fleshy areas. And that is a rule of thumb and not always going to be the case for everything, but it is a good rule of thumb for most things. It's a good kind of starting point. There are a lot of techniques when it comes to painting skin as well. I'm probably going to keep mine more simple, but you can do things like using spray strokes. We'll grab an alpha. I'm not a huge fan of color spray typically, but we'll do it for a little bit just so you can see it. Let's do it up here. So you can kind of see how it speckles it. Typically you want to do this with like a smaller brush. So you start getting some stippling, for those that are familiar with the term. I think that this is, I think it can work. I think it works better for more realistic stuff. For what I'm doing here, I don't think it's a super great idea. I prefer to just have large brush strokes, painting huge swaths of color. Trying to find a skin tone that feels maybe a bit more natural rather than clown paint, right? That's always a bit of a struggle sometimes. I like to paint in a little bit of shadow around my eyes. This is a bit heavy right now, but I like to start, I should say, a bit heavy with some of this stuff, and then I'll knock it back down later. Kind of liking the color that I'm starting to get around the cheek area. That's a bit closer to where I want to be. It's like heading in the direction. Very large paintbrush. I'm going to go ahead and turn off our spray stroke. Go back to freehand. No alpha, thank you. Okay, so we're working towards a better skin tone. Again, I really want to try seeing what I could do with some cooler colors. Like some icy vanilla. Some icy tones in a couple areas. I don't know if it'll work or not. I at least want to try it out. It'll probably be too strong of an effect. Bony areas around the jaw, maybe around the brow a bit more. Let's get it a bit heavy-handed here at first. Bridge the nose. Maybe we can go a bit more pink with some of the skin tone here. Just to feel a bit closer to a cooler color on the spectrum. Like heading in that direction. Away from warmth. Starting to mix into something a little bit purple now. Alright, let's go ahead and neutralize this skin tone a little bit. The way that I like to do this is I just infill like a little bit of... Hey, come back. There we go. A little bit of a color. Like a small percentage of a solid color. Kind of like that yellow. Let's go a bit more red. A bit pinkish right now. Let's go maybe a bit more light. And a bit more cool. There's a lot of different materials that you can use for this as well. There's one I want to try here. I think it's the 3. I'm going to keep that on 5 for now. I really like this kind of cool material here in the viewport. It doesn't do super great for rendering later though. We might use that a little bit. Let's go for the hair. Maybe a bit yellow, maybe a bit black. I think black could be a really cool framing color for this. It's because of the direction. I was thinking a bit more like pale would be cool. Palish color. I don't know. Definitely a lot of room here. You start making gold a bit more pale, or add in a bit more blue to that, and it starts becoming green very quickly. Okay, let me just infill a couple quick colors here. Blip. Pretty nasty right now. We'll make it better though. Just adding a little bit of paint to the ear. I'm going to merge the ears into the head here in a moment, as well as a neck, so that I can remesh the head. I might give her a quick mouth bag as well. I find that that's nice for working on the lips. Let's do all that really quick here. I also want to simplify some of this stuff The ears have this kind of weird thickness going on with them right now. And I think I just want to get rid of most of this. I'll blend that out better later, but let's Dynamesh these. Doesn't really matter how you Boolean and combine things, it's just, I like to use Dynamesh, it's fast. And it's okay to keep things dirty. Whoa, don't want this super dark color down there right now. Proportionally, our ear is a bit far back and our jaw's a bit too long. I'll have to scoot that forward. Typically this line will be, whoops. Typically that'll be roughly in the middle of the head. I want to adjust some other proportions here. That will be a lot easier outside of Dynamesh once we start remeshing. But before I do that, I need to create a mouth bag here. So let's do that next. Mouth bags are really not difficult to create. The way that I'm doing it here involves a process of just kind of chopping off the upper and lower lip into separate segments and then carving in a small cavity inside of the mouth. If you don't know why you need one of these, they're very useful for a number of reasons. Mainly for making your lips look a bit more natural. If you're going to have a character for animation later, you're going to need a mouth bag, most likely. If the character's going to speak and open up their mouth, can't have that geometry fused together necessarily. That won't work. This is not going to be animated later. And I will most likely have the lips either closed or slightly parted. Haven't really decided. I know it looks really creepy right now. We'll fix it, don't worry. So I might experiment with that. I'm not sure. I actually need to open this up. So when you're doing a Boolean, it will combine all the geometry that you have here. Anything that's touching or interpenetrating. So to correct that, you have to temporarily do this like awkward open mouth thing. And it looks it looks very weird. Trust me, I know. I've done this many times, but I'm not worried about what it looks like right now. You shouldn't be while just kind of doing the technical stuff really quick. I just need a cavity in there. Could worry about fixing some of that stuff. But let's see how that does really quick. So I want to get some polygroups there. Let me open up the mouth a little bit more. Yeah, we'll do a little bit more. Gotta be careful. Let's increase the res just a little bit. Okay, that feels all right to me in terms of just a mouth bag. Let's take a peek inside. Take a peek. Clean this up a little bit. So there's our little cavity for the mouth. Very narrow, very thin. Like it's literally just to create a separation for the mouth here. Nothing else. From here we can go ahead and remesh this, and then I'll project some paint onto it. Let me do that real quick. I'm just cleaning up the surface very quickly. Very slight changes that I'm worried might kind of screw up the remesh. Making sure that mask is decently clean. And let's go ahead and remesh it. There is our remeshed face. I'm not really liking that. It's too much stretching happening through here, and I don't like this star, this series of awkward loops happening through there, as well as that star there. Let's adjust this slightly. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. It's gonna be a lot of technical stuff going on right now as I clean up this geometry and get it to a workable state. I really only want the group around the mouth right now for a specific edge loop, but I'm doing a little bit of extra work here in an attempt to get some decently clean results. It's not the end of the world if it's not, you know, super clean. I just want to get something a little bit nicer if I can. This is actually beginning to head in the right direction. We're getting some decent selections here. So let's continue on. Just a couple more, and then we'll continue with some sculpting. Alright, so I've created a couple extra poly groups here. That should be fine for moving forward. Let's go ahead and work from here. I don't really need a lot, and I'm probably going to redo a lot of this as well. Whoa, what's going on there? That's not what we want. Okay, that'll do for now. I just need to project some of that poly paint back. I'm gonna do a project all on the color. There we go. All right. So I've got something a little bit more workable for the time being. I will play with this a lot more later on. Very awkward looking right now, I know. Let me clean up some poly paint, clean up some form, get this to a nicer state, and we'll continue from there. Lots of smoothing at different subdiv levels. Gonna once again come through with a pinch in a couple areas. We are going to close up this mouth. Need to get tighter around the corners of the lips there. Right now, very awkward. Let's, very splotchy back here. I have a solution for that though. Big thing, gotta move these ears forward. Much easier to do when you have subdivision levels. Alright, so in terms of form, we're getting there. Ooh, kind of like that roundness that we're getting from the jaw. Let's go back here to 85. Not liking the bulge that we're getting over here in the profile. Let's turn on RGB smoothing. The smooth brush is very destructive to your paint because it can cause a lot of bugs and errors. If I switch my material here, oh, I didn't have my material applied, never mind. Well, normally that would cause your material to get really janked and messed up from blending colors. It's a bit hard to explain without showing it here. We might find an example later on and I'll point it out. I don't want to intentionally cause the error and waste time though. Alright, let's get rid of this splotchiness from the back of the head. Alright, from the profile, not really going to be able to see this. I don't want to work on too much that's not going to be seen. I obviously want to make something nice here from a lot of different angles, but I also don't want to spend a ridiculous amount of time working on stuff that's never going to be seen. Like I said, this is experimental, so trying to play around here, figure out what works, what doesn't. But at the end of this, it's mostly going to be for a final, like, rendered image, a single image that we're aiming at. Alright, I'll be playing with the shapes in the face here more as we move forward. Not sure what we'll keep, what will change, but at least for now we have a base that we can build off of and continue to tweak and change as we progress, so I'm happy with that. Let's neutralize a little bit of this color. Especially down here. That just looks silly. We also have a neck. I want that to blend into the head properly. This will also help to soften this jawline. You have to be really careful when working on this area. It's very easy to lose track of your jawline. Kind of fades into nothing there. So I like to keep mine a bit sharper just so I know where it is. And then when I'm ready, I can kind of get rid of it. Gotta start with these hard shapes first before you do the soft shapes. We talked about this in a previous video, but just want to clarify. It's very important to do that. You won't understand why your shapes are getting screwed up, or you won't really understand your shapes at all when you just have a bunch of soft, rounder forms. Very hard to control once you get to that stage. We're never going to see this character bald once it's done, so I don't want to spend a ton of time working on the actual shape of the head. I do just want to get it feeling a bit nicer. I want to make sure that these are going in a direction that I'm happy with. And I might redo some of the hair cut off pieces. I just want to make sure that that is, it's working out. Staying in line with the general shape of the head. Alright, so I'm just going to keep that kind of, that awkward goldish color right now, and we'll probably tweak that a bit more as we progress. Let's see. Alright, so let's give this hair some thickness. There's actually some really cool tools to dynamically do this, but I kind of just want to get this rough. Gotta make sure my normals are facing the right way. Oh, we're gonna delete these legs. We're not gonna be giving this character legs. We're not even gonna be probably giving this character hands. I'm gonna delete them for now. We can maybe add some hands back on later if we decide to do that. But at least for now, it's not a necessary step. Let's see. Let's get that neck matching up. A lot of this is never going to be seen as well. Nice to have a lot of these planes figured out, though. Doing some blending. This will probably be what we'll see here. Probably nothing below the ribcage line. Let's go a little bit more. Whoops. I'm going to go a little bit more narrow. Upper chest region. Shoulder girdle. Growing a bit more around the ribs. Tapering down slightly. A little bit more of a lat. I don't like that blend right there. I'd rather have that feel a bit more round through the rib cage. Very rough, right? But we're starting to refine a little bit, make it feel a bit more organic. I don't think we'll integrate these arms too much. I'm not sure. I guess it depends on what we do with the clothing. A little bit too strong of a transition through this area. And now I'm just kind of realigning some of this stuff that has been misaligned here as I've worked on the head and ignored the body. So that should blend in a lot more nicely than what we had previously. Inner arm is a bit awkwardly flat. Let's see if I can get a nice polygroup through there. Alright, like I said, this stuff shouldn't matter too much, which is why I'm going pretty quick here. Sculpting out a lot of the hard planes that we had previously, putting in some softer forms through a lot of this. A bit too deep for the back, for the chest in total. Chest is very narrow in depth. You can do a lot of things with proportions to make some interesting shapes. I like to keep things with some anatomical truth in them as much as I can. Obviously a lot of room for exaggeration and, you know, like removal of form completely to create some very interesting effects. This is too low. Too low back here. Need to offset that this direction. So, for instance, like that ribcage shape, I was kind of liking the direction there, but I don't like to flex bones too much away from where they should be. It starts to fall apart pretty quick. I'm just going to fill in most of this. It's just unnecessary form. And I want that shoulder there to be a bit more in line with the neck. Let's see. Maybe a bit more like that. Okay, let's do some eyelashes. That'll help the face not feel quite so strange. Need to define this area a little bit more anyway. Get something a bit more clean around the eyelid region. I'm thinking that the size of our eye is either a bit too small. Maybe here, let's I'm actually pretty happy with the size. Just playing with making the eyes larger. Well, that's definitely starting to feel better. I don't know if it's the exact eye shape or direction that I want to go, but let's yeah, let's get an eyelash in there. Lots of different ways to create eyelashes. For now, I'm just going to use my cube tube brush. Draw out a quick curve. Make sure I can see it. It's only a little bit important that you can see what you're making. Alright, I'll just stick with that for now. Okay, let's do some adjusting to this shape. Let's just get the general larger form first. I like to make things simple to work on, so having a one-sided piece of geometry is very nice, I find. And we're going to go from thick to thin. Oh, I think my pen nib is scratched up there. Made a weird sound on my tablet. Don't like that. Don't like weird noises on my tablet, especially ones that sound like scratching. It seems a little bit better. I just kind of pushed really hard and rubbed it on my desk. It's just a plastic nib, and sometimes using them the same direction while you're holding your pen starts to wear them down a little bit. It takes in my experience, it takes a really long time to wear them down, but I was making a bit of a weird noise there. Now it is not, so I'm pretty happy. Let's see. Let's go with black here. Let that frame the lid. I want to align that just a little bit better. And I want to give this a little bit more form. So let's do insert an edge loop. And I'm going to start to curl these out. Get some curly lashes. Once again, difficult to see when you're working on something that's black. It's just impossible to make out the form. All you can see is the silhouette. Okay, so let's stick with that for the basic shape. And I want to add like a couple more pieces coming off of it. Oh, down here, extrude. You can now extrude edges, which is super nice. The fact that we couldn't do this before was a little bit sad, but we can do it now, so I can't complain too much. I'll see comments occasionally that are like, why are you poly modeling here in ZBrush? I'm like, because it's easy. It's not, it's very easy for me to keep everything here in ZBrush. And the Z Modeler brush is very nice. It's a very nice brush, very nice tool. It's called a brush. It's called the Z Modeler brush. It is not a brush. It is a poly modeling tool. They just have to use what they have here in ZBrush. Use how the software already works to integrate other things that people want, such as poly modeling tools. And you always have to throw Z in it, right in the front. That's the trick. I'm surprised Dynamesh is not called Zynamesh or Z Dynamesh. I mean, we have Z Remesher and the Z Modeler, everything else. Why not Z Dynamesh? What happened there? Maybe we'll see an update. So I've just kind of blended that in. Now I'm going to give this some thickness using, once again, the Z Modeler brush. Extrude all polygons. Boop-a-doo. Some very boring poly modeling stuff here for you. So I can crease this edge over here and make this super tight. I don't typically like doing creases like that, though. Instead, what I'll normally do is bevel edges. So you can get a very similar result, just not quite as perfectly sharp here at this res. There's some other things that you can do with creases to make them fade out and only go to a certain subdivision level, which is nice. I don't like fiddling with that, though. I just prefer to create a quick piece of actual geometry, a quick edge loop, and be done with it. So like I said, eyelashes make a big difference in just framing your face very nicely. With or without eyelashes there, it feels pretty awkward. Also, defining your eyelids a little bit more, as I've done here, has helped quite a bit. Still a lot more to go, though. But hey, a good spot for us to hit pause. If you're new around here, make sure to click that subscribe button and check out gumroad.com/Follygon for things like my courses, my custom brushes, and my materials. With that, I'll say goodbye for now and see you in the next part, where we're going to continue making some big changes on this face.